Thanks. Thank you, Sebastian, for the introduction. My name is Veronica Newton. I'm with the Vermont Agency of Education, and I'm really excited to be here today. I am the program manager for the personalized learning team, and part of this, other members of the team oversee dual enrollment program, early college program, the work-based learning program, as well as personalized learning plans, processes, and developments. And let's see, I think I'd like to just jump right in if that's okay. All right.
Go ahead.
Okay, sounds good. And so we're going to start off with the definition of work-based learning in Vermont. And so the definition of work-based learning in Vermont has actually been revised several times, and this is in order to reflect our education initiatives and policies. So work-based learning is an educational program or experience involving student interactions with industry, community professionals in real, virtual, online, or simulated work environments that exposes learners to post-secondary options, provides opportunities for skill development and proficiency attainment, and allows for students to reinforce and deepen their school-based learning. And so a lot of the components of Act 77 are reflected in this definition, as well as sections from our education quality standards. And I'm trying to go to the next slide. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we have Act 77, the Flexible Pathways Initiative, the what and the why. So now I'm going to have us walk through how we actually got to that current work-based learning definition that I just read to you. So in 2013, the Flexible Pathways Initiative was passed, and the two main components of Act 77 involve personalized learning plans for all students in grades 7 through 12, as well as the expectation that all secondary students have access to flexible pathway learning opportunities as part of their pathway to graduation. And so why? What is the purpose behind Act 77? So the purpose is to encourage and support school districts as they develop and expand high quality and educational experiences that really reflect the 21st century learning. We also want to increase the graduation rates, and as well as a continuation, post-secondary continuation in Vermont, as well as providing opportunities and promoting opportunities for students to achieve this readiness through actually personalized learning experiences. So now the what. So what are the expectations here? And so with regards to the personalized learning plan in and of itself, Act 77 provided some guidance or the expectations around what it's asking schools to do and what the personalized learning planning process should actually entail. And with regards to identifying students' abilities, involving participation of families, guardians, and other adult educators, mentors. Also, the purpose of the personalized learning process is to really ensure that the student is set up for success for life after high school. And all of this shall be documented by a personalized learning plan. Okay, so here's where work-based learning comes in. And so in order to ensure that learning is really personalized in the state of Vermont, we also want to include flexible pathway opportunities for students to take advantage of that support their interests, goals, abilities, dispositions. And so several of the ones that are actually listed in statute are work-based learning, CTE, online and blended learning, the dual enrollment opportunities, early college, and the high school completion program. And so how have we at the Agency of Education actually made connections to ensure that Act 77 was really involved with the education system in the state of Vermont? And so we have here, so it's Act 77 is actually reflected throughout the agency's structure, the federal and state plans, as well as policy and guidelines. So I'm going to just quickly start off with the education quality standards. And the education quality standards were passed in 2014. And what I did was I pulled up components of the education quality standards that really speak to Act 77, as well as work-based learning. So where does work-based learning intersect with components of education quality standards? And so as you can see, flexible pathways, and this language is closely aligned to the language laid out in Act 77, as well as personalized learning plans. And so in addition to the personalized learning plans and the flexible pathway opportunities, education quality standards also charges schools with implementing a proficiency-based learning system. And so with that in mind, if you look at the local graduation requirements, there's a graduation policy that defines proficiency-based graduation requirements based on state standards. And this also allows for, so the adoption of, with the implementation of a proficiency-based learning system really allows for flexible pathway opportunities to be of value, and for students to able to actually earn credit for these flexible pathway opportunities around potential academic and transferable skills. So another component is to ensure that Act 77 was embedded within our state and federal accountability plans. So for our annual snapshot, this is the state annual snapshot, and then we also have, for the federal component, the academic proficiency domain. And if you look at number 4, we have college and career readiness. And so for there are, for assessments, industry recognized credentials are now a part of a data collection set that will be submitted to the feds, as well as part of our state accountability system. And with regards to the industry recognized credentials, we're working to expand the process we currently have that caters specifically to CTE centers, and really ensure that all secondary students have access to taking advantage of these opportunities and to receive credential to help with the post-secondary continuation. And then we have the reorganization. And so once again, so Act 77 was passed in 2013, and there was a working group as part of Act 77 for educators to convene, educators across the state, administrators to convene and do some research behind personalized learning planning, personalized learning planning processes and strategies, and with that work, publish it. And so this working group, their work ended in 2014, and then there was a gap. So there was a couple of years where there wasn't any work being done necessarily at the state level around further or in order to support and continue to ensure that students in schools are receiving support around the implementation of personalized learning plans. So in July 2016, we restructured several teams to align better with the education quality standards. And so the personalized learning team was established, and as I mentioned before too, the components, the specific components with the work-based learning intersection and the education quality standards, we wanted to make sure that we had representation of these components in Act 77 as well, to help supervise these initiatives and to provide more intensive supports to the field. So that wasn't really enough though. And so this year, so in October of 2018, we actually began an agency-wide reorganization, and this reorganization is still underway. However, with regards to the Student Pathways Division, we are able to take the personalized learning team, the proficiency-based learning team, career and tech ed, the tech education, as well as the 21C programs and adult ed and literacy. So we all actually are now within the same division, which really further supports a more cohesive and coherent and comprehensive approach as the work we do internally, as well as to help maintain consistency when we're providing guidance and technical assistance to the field. So what have we learned, and what are we continuing to learn? And so we have this, so July 2016, there's a new team, personalized learning team. So I am on the on the personalized learning team, and I'm also the work-based learning program coordinator for the state. So what we also realized is that there was not a formal data collection in place around whether or not schools were implementing a personalized learning planning process for all students in grades 7 through 12, the types of flexible pathway opportunities being provided to students in schools across the state, or even the access piece, so the accessibility piece. So what did students have access to? And so with this in mind, our team, we embarked on a listening tour, which involved 11 schools throughout the state, and they were strategically identified just to ensure that all demographics were included. And we were able to come up with a baseline set of information to really support our work moving forward. And one of those had to do with the work-based learning coordinator endorsement. And so, 2013, Act 77 is passed, and so part of Act 77 is to include the expansion of work-based learning opportunities for all secondary students. And so work-based learning has generally lived in the house of career and tech ed centers, and now with this law, all secondary students should have access to these work-based learning opportunities. And in order to ensure that these opportunities are safe, legal, compliant, for the student, as well as well-rounded, we revised the work-based learning coordinator endorsement. And so with that revision, there was not a program in the state of Vermont to help support the preparation of candidates for attaining the work-based learning coordinator endorsement. So that was one major hiccup that we're actually still working on. And we also, so with regards to state board rules and regulations, CTE rules and regulations, they had work-based learning coordinator requirements, as well as specific criteria for these experiences. And we have yet to adopt state board rules around and regulations around work-based learning programs for secondary schools. And so therefore we developed guidelines for supervisory unions of school districts and schools to use when determining the actual need for a work-based learning coordinator position. And this has been challenging and tricky in and of itself, but I really feel like we're making progress moving forward. We also learned about the personalized learning plans, and so that they vary, the processes, elements, platforms, they vary within supervisory unions of school districts, as well as across regions and just across the entire state. And so what we are doing is we're developing personalized learning plan exemplars for the field to help support the implementation and development of personalized learning plans. And we've also been convening regional meetings to gather feedback from the field about how the AOE can help these systems. And so we're helping to really foster conversations with the CTE centers and their partner schools around what the personalized learning planning process looks like in each individual school, and really how can we work on developing processes where PLPs are shared between these schools and centers. Ultimately, we want the student to be responsible for it, transferring this plan. And then we also learned about the proficiency-based graduation requirements and the implementation of across the state. And so they are locally defined at the supervisory union and school district level. And so with that in mind, and you have CTE centers in the state, you can have several districts with partner schools attending a CTE center, which means that you can have one program and 6 kids could actually be coming in with 6 not only different PLP processes and formats, but also 6 different sets of graduation requirements. And also the implementation stages vary across the state as well, especially with regards to awarding credit for flexible pathway learning experiences. And so we're working on the revisions of the local comprehensive assessment system guide, and also the Vermont Portrait of a Graduate for schools to use as they identify the elements that are necessary for a student to be ready for life after high school. All right, so those were many, many lessons learned. And so how are we supporting the field in the implementation of work-based learning? So we've devoted, so with regards to that reorganization, and then also all of us now moving under the same division, we're in a better position to devote grant funds to scaling work-based learning and career advising programs. Also, with regards to the federal ESSA levels of evidence criteria, we have now incorporated that into all of our state-funded grants. So those grant funds to scale work-based learning, career advising programs, also as part of their project proposals, we're incorporating the levels of evidence piece so that we're maintaining consistency with the federal and state level grant funding. We've updated the Vermont Work-Based Learning Manuals, tools, and resources. Like I said, we revised the Work-Based Learning Coordinator endorsement. We've also developed guidelines to support decision-making processes around work-based learning opportunities and investments. And these are all documents that were shared prior to the meeting today. The creation of the Work-Based Learning Collaborative to support educators as they build, strengthen, and expand work-based learning programs. I feel like this has been going really well in the state, and this was developed based on needs from the field from both CTE center coordinators as well as high school coordinators and coordinators from the high school completion programs, because they were all working in silos and they really wanted to have an opportunity to network and to share best practices and to strengthen their own work-based learning programs. So how are we doing? So with regards to the Work-Based Learning Collaborative, we have over 80 work-based learning professionals, and once again, these are educators as well as licensed work-based learning coordinators, educators that are providing work-based learning opportunities for students, special education educators. We also have state agency representation from our Agency of Human Services, Voc Rehab, as well as career counselors and transition counselors that fall underneath that agency. We've also increased the number of licensed work-based learning coordinators by 32%, which is huge, especially considering that, well, to me it is, considering that we don't have an established program in place right now for potential candidates for this endorsement. And through the Education Technology Survey, it's reported that 198 schools are using PLP platforms. And also our team has worked on and developed a self-paced personalized learning course to provide guidelines and technical assistance around how to implement a personalized learning planning process into the school. So now we're moving on to the Common Data Project. So how are we doing? So we collected this information as partnership with the New England Secondary School Consortium. And this is just really, this is just a rough appraisal of pre-Act 77 and then several years after Act 77. And so there's a difference. There has been an increase in graduation rates as well as a decrease in high school dropouts. And then also from the Common Data Project, this is also data that we have around how we're compared with our other colleagues in New England. And obviously there's always still work ahead. And so our work, is always to ensure that we're creating equitable learning environments for all Vermont students by addressing the following: the opportunity gap, the achievement gap, and the learning gap. I thank you so much. This is what I have, and I'm not really sure of my timing here, but I'm open for any questions. Sebastian, you might have already been able to collect some questions during the presentation. And I guess if you want to switch it back to you, go for it. Once again, thanks again for listening. And here's my contact information. Please reach out to me at any time.